All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try this YouTube video teaching, and I'm just going to talk to you as if you were in the classroom. So, as always, you're going to start with your warm-up. The warm-up is all review, and it takes however long it takes you. So go ahead and turn off the video, do the warm-up, and then turn the video back on. So go ahead, turn off the video. All right, welcome back. So let's go over these answers. The first one, you've got 24 acres and you're splitting them into 1/3 plots. We know we never really divide fractions, so hopefully you all change that to a multiplication problem, and it comes out to be that you can make 72 lots. Second problem, you're combining like terms. Each line has to have an equivalent expression. So make sure that you're not doing gobbledygook. Make sure that you're doing correct answers. And your final answer is x minus 12. The last one, you see the ratio, so you circle it. And they're asking for miles per minute. We always start ratio problems with words, so everybody should have miles per minute written down. The miles per minute then tells you where to put your numbers. I'm going to take that 1 1/3 and I'm going to make that into a fraction right away. We never really divide fractions. We get our answer, but it's a word problem, so we have to answer in words. So our answer is 3/16 miles per minute. If you have any questions on any of that, make sure that you look it over, and you can email me questions. All right, so today we're going to move away from equations, which we've been working on for a long time, and we're going to move into the world of inequalities. So today I'd like you to be able to solve, and I'd like you to be able to graph. Solve and graph inequalities in one variable. Oops, let me erase that. In one variable. All right. So first I want you to look at those symbols and write down what you think they mean. If I'm going too fast in the video, go ahead and stop the video, take your notes, and then resume the video, or you can rewind the video. So this first one I'm thinking that you're probably comfortable with. And let's look at it. Let's say that we have 1 and we have 3. Most of you know that the mouth eats the bigger number, so it looks like that. And the way that we can remember this is there's 1 dot that fills in that corner, and there's 3 dots that fill in this corner. And that shows you that that's the way the inequality sign goes. So this inequality sign is less than. Let's jump over to this other one that you're familiar with. And let's start from the beginning. We all know that, like, for instance, 4 is greater than 1. So let's put our 4 dots for 4, our 1 dot for 1, and then fill in that inequality sign. Do you see how it looks the same as the other inequality sign? Okay. So when we read this, we say the number is, it's important that you have that word is, greater than. All right, now we're going to move to the ones that you might be less familiar with. This is a double sign. It has a little equal sign at the bottom. So this has the is less than, and then it has an equal sign. So we read it that the first number is less than, that's the top part, or equal to. And that's how we read that. So if that symbol is less than or equal to, this symbol over here is going to be is greater than or equal to. Is greater than is the top part of the symbol, and the bottom part of the symbol is a little bit of a little half equal sign. All right. So we're going to be working with inequalities, and when we work with inequalities, we're going to be using a graph. So when we work with inequalities, we use a graph to show our solution. And the graph's going to be a number line. And now they ask, why do you think that is so? So think about it. You can stop the video and think about it. All right, I'm going to ruin the surprise for you here. Why do you think that is? The reason that we use a graph is because with an inequality, there are many, many solutions. With an equation, all the equations that you've done, there's just one single solution. So x is equal to 5, x is equal to negative 10. Now we're looking, for instance, if we look down here, we're looking for all the numbers that are greater than 2. Well, what numbers are greater than 2? Well, 3, 4, 5. How about 3.5? How about 192? How about 2.1? How about 2.01? There are so many solutions. So when we go to graph, look up here, when we go to graph, there's a point, another point, and in between each of those solutions is another one. And in between each of those solutions is another one. And so we end up using a graph. And in this specific position, or this specific inequality, there's a hollow dot there. We're going to talk about that next. All right. So rules for graphing. This inequality says x is greater than 2. So that means we need a dot above every single number that's greater than 2. So, of course, 3 and 4 and 5, like that. But then how about 2.5? How about 2.1? How about 2.01? Think, what number is the closest number that's bigger than 2, but it's not 2? Well, any number that you tell me, I can tell you a number that's even closer to 2. So we don't know exactly what number is closest to 2. So what we do is we put that hollow dot. I'm going to highlight it right here. We put that hollow dot. And so there's a hollow dot, and then all the points to the right represent all the different numbers that are greater than 2. So that hollow dot means that 2 is not included, but all the numbers bigger than 2 are. Now look at the next inequality. It says, read it, x is greater than or equal to 2. Because it says that it's equal to 2, that dot right there is filled in because 2 is part of the answer. And then, of course, 3 and 4 and 5 and 2.5 and so forth and so on. So this notation might be new for you. Let's take some notes. On the first graph, any number bigger than 2 works. So any number bigger than 2, but not 2. This says that x has to be bigger than 2. Now on the bottom, I'm going to change colors here because it's different. The bottom one says x could be greater than 2, but it also can be equal to 2. So this means that we have 2 and all numbers bigger than 2. I should say all instead of any. Okay, guys, it's hard to write on here. So that little itty bitty dot right there makes a huge difference. If it's hollow, it means that 2's not involved. It's not part of our answer. If it's filled in, a solid dot, that means 2's part of our answer. All right, so what does filling in the circle mean in terms of the solution? Well, I just told you, now you go ahead and write it. It means that the number is included in the solution. So in this situation, it means that with filling in the circle, it means that the 2 is part of the answer. All right, let's see if you understand this now. Is less than or equal to, is greater than equal to, are going to have a closed or filled in circle because of that equal sign. On the other hand, the less is less than, is greater than, have an open circle because the number's not included. So this is huge. If there's an equal sign, that's the whole clue right there. If there's an equal sign, it's going to be filled in. Boom. If there's no equal sign, it's going to be a hollow dot. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to practice a little bit of graphing. It says, to graph each inequality below, they give you a number line. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the inequality. It says x is less than or equal to 5, so go ahead and read it. Go above the 5, that's the dividing line, and put a hollow dot. Then you decide, well, if there's an equal sign, that means we're going to fill it in. So then fill in the dot. And then we want all the numbers that are smaller than 5. So think of a number that's smaller than 5, like 4 or 0 or any negative number, and draw your graph going that way. Don't forget to put an arrowhead. Now, technically, when you graph an inequality, it should be right on top of the number line, like it is up here. But in reality, that doesn't work very well. So when we graph above the number line, just like I've just done right there. Okay, so now you go ahead of me here and go to number 2. Number 2 says all the numbers, the graph, the x, has to be less than -4. We go above the -4, put a hollow dot. Oh, it stays hollow because there's no equal sign. Now think of all the numbers that are less than -4, colder than -4, -5, -6, -7, like that. It goes to the left. Move on to number 3. Again, you can go ahead of me. Stop the video and go ahead of me. It says x, that's our graph, all the numbers that are greater than or equal to 3. So we go to 3 and we decide, does 3 stay open or does 3 get filled in? Well, that equal sign is there, so that dot gets filled in. And then we want all the numbers that are bigger than 3. What numbers are bigger than 3? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that. Go to number 4. Same thing, start with your dot. It says x is greater than 0. X is greater than 0, so you go to the 0 and you go ahead and put your hollow dot. Does it stay hollow? Yep, it stays hollow because there's no equal sign. Now we want all the numbers that are bigger than 0, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like that. Any questions? That's what I'd ask if you were in front of me, but you're not in front of me, so I can't really ask that. All right, let's move on. Solving inequalities. You'll be glad to know that when you solve an inequality, these first ones that we're going to start with, you solve an inequality like you solve an equation. Most of you have gotten really good at solving equations, so you're going to use those same exact skills right now. It says solve and graph. If it was an equation, we draw a line through the equal sign, but that confuses us. So we're just going to draw a line below. We first of all add or subtract in order to isolate the variable term. And the inequality sign comes down exactly as is. Then we want a coefficient of 1. And the inequality sign comes down exactly as is. We've solved the inequality. Now we need to graph the inequality. That's what we just practiced. So we make a number line, and on your number line, I always want you to put 0. Now the number that's involved is also 0. I want you to go one number bigger than 0, one number smaller than 0. That doesn't look very good. Let me try again. Oh. There we go. All right, so let's follow the rules that we just practiced. X is less than or equal to 0, so we put a hollow dot above the 0. We see the equal sign, so we're going to fill that hollow dot in. And we want all the numbers that are less than 0. So is 1 less than 0 or -1? Hopefully you all said -1, so it goes to the left. Solve and graph. Let's try again. This next one right here we need to solve, so we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. The inequality sign comes down exactly as is. Then we get a coefficient of 1. And the inequality sign comes down exactly as is. We just solved the inequality. Now let's graph the inequality. Make a number line. Put your 0 on the number line. Now we're graphing x is greater than or equal to 3. So I always want a 0 on your number line, and then you can go to 3, one number bigger than 3, one number smaller than 3. Above the 3, we start with a hollow dot. We look up at our inequality sign. It has that equal sign, so we're going to fill in the dot. And then we need all the numbers that are bigger than 3. So we think to ourselves, is 2 or 4? Which one's bigger than 3? And the ones that are bigger than 3 are going to the right. Sometimes you see the graph kind of squiggly like that. You can choose to do a straight graph or a squiggly graph. That's up to you. All right, let's do the next one. We go ahead and solve just like we would with an equation, except for we don't draw a line through that inequality sign. The inequality sign comes down exactly as is. Do not change it. And then we know that we're going to want to divide by 1/2, but we can't divide by 1/2, so we multiply by the reciprocal. And the inequality sign comes down exactly as is. Solving inequalities just like we'd solve an equation. Now we're going to graph. We always put 0 on the graph. -4 is to the left. Be careful. -4 is to the left of 0. Then we want one number bigger than -4 and one number smaller than -4. Think about that. X is less than -4, so we put a hollow dot above the -4. We look at the inequality sign. There's no equal sign, so we don't fill it in. We want all the numbers less than -4, so we're going to go to the smaller numbers to the left. And that's what we're going to do. So let's try it. It says, what does the graph of an inequality represent? So what they want to know here is they want to know, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And what that means, hopefully you're going ahead of me, is that that graph represents all of those points that make that inequality true. So the graph of an inequality represents all of the many, many solutions, the many, many answers of the inequality. They represent every single number that makes that inequality true. All right, now you're going to practice. So I'll do a few with you. Feel free to turn off the video, do a problem, and then turn it back on and look and see how you did, just like we would do in class. Make sure the inequality sign stays exactly the same. When you go to graph, there needs to be a 0. There needs to be the number that's represented in the problem. One number bigger, one number smaller. Put your your open dot above the 4. Decide if it's going to be colored in or not. There's the equal sign that says color it in. And then we want all the numbers that are less than that going to the left. Okay, try the next one. All right, I'm going to do one more with you. Again, stop and start the video as needed. Stop and start as needed. Make sure the -3 is on the correct side of the 0. All right, so look back over this, redo any problems that you need to redo, and then you continue and you finish the rest of those 3 problems on that page. Then you do the next page, and then when you get to the end of page 56, that's the end of today's lesson. So good luck. Make sure that you follow directions. Go back and watch the video again if you get confused, and I'll give you the answers tomorrow.